When the entire world's eyes were fixed on America's Apollo missions in 1960, at that very moment, some terrifying experiments were being conducted on our neighboring planet, Venus. The Soviet Union, i.e., the Russians, planned a suicide mission to Venus. After spending billions of dollars and years of hard work, they prepared a probe that would, for the first time in history, land on another planet and capture its pictures. But upon reaching Venus, the Russian probes encountered a hellish, inferno-like environment that stunned Russian scientists. Today, we will learn about those Russian suicide missions to Venus that revealed the horrifying secrets of Venus. How a small camera lens cap turned years of Russian effort and billions of dollars into dust. What was there that even with today's advanced technology, Russia has never returned there? Welcome shrouded in clouds, and at that time, humans had no idea what lay hidden within these deep clouds of Venus. Even for scientists, it was a secret box. Russia thought that the moon could even be seen through a telescope. If they could show the world the scene inside Venus, it might be an even bigger feat than America landing on the moon. And if oceans, forests, or alien creatures were captured within these clouds, it would be a direct victory for Russia. Thinking this, the Russians planned not one or two, but a total of 18 missions to Venus. For this task, the probe Russia assigned was named Venera, which means Venus in Russian. At that time, scientists were certain that the clouds surrounding Venus and its proximity to the Sun meant that an atmosphere existed there. But no one had any idea how much thicker this atmosphere was compared to Earth's. They designed Venera to withstand high atmospheric pressure. At that time, in the space race, the Russians would keep their experiments hidden from the world until they succeeded, to avoid facing the shame of failure. On February 4, 1961, Russia sent its first probe toward Venus, but it couldn't even escape Earth's orbit. Following their policy, they didn't inform the world about this failure, making only an excuse of a heavy satellite launch. The Russians had another policy. They built two probes for one mission, so that if one failed, the other could complete the mission. This time, they built two probes, Venera 1 and Venera 2. Their aim was only to fly by Venus, i.e., to pass it by and collect some data. Venera 1 was launched on February 12, 1961. It was the first probe in history sent toward another planet. But just 7 days after launch, its contact with Earth was lost. The result was that this silent probe passed within 100,000 kilometers of Venus, but couldn't send us any data, and it is still wandering somewhere around the Sun.
"4 years later, on November 12, 1965, Venera 2 was sent, but its fate was similar to Venera 1's. Contact was lost as soon as it left Earth's orbit, and this mission also failed. I should mention here that in the 1960s, Russia made several other attempts, but all of them failed miserably, so much so that they weren't even given the name Venera. These are called ghost missions in the history of the space race. Now came the turn of Venera 3 and 4, and this was the year 1966. This time, the Russians built larger and more powerful probes, weighing 1 ton. They consisted of 2 parts, a bus that would carry the probe to the planet's outer atmosphere, and a sphere that would enter the planet. This sphere contained several sensors: a pressure sensor, also called a barometer, a gas analyzer to detect gases in Venus's environment, a thermometer, batteries, and 2 antennas to transmit all this data. Venera 3's mission was only to check Venus's atmosphere. There was no intention of a soft landing, nor were there any provisions for it. That is, it was a suicide mission. But alas, as soon as it entered Venus's terrifying winds, its system also failed, and it couldn't send any data back to the Russian scientists. It was only a crash landing. However, on March 1, 1966, Venera 3 became the first man-made object in history to collide with the surface of another planet. Well, the following year, in October 1967, the Russians achieved some success with Venera 4. It successfully moved toward Venus, and this time, without any system failure, it discovered that the atmosphere here contained mostly carbon dioxide gas. Initially, the Russians claimed that Venus's atmosphere was 25 times thicker than Earth's. According to them, Venera 4 landed safely on Venus's surface because it had a parachute attached. But later it was discovered that in reality, Venera 4 couldn't withstand the high atmospheric pressure as soon as it entered Venus's atmosphere and crumpled like a soda can. Anyway, when the Russians realized that their probes couldn't land on Venus's surface, they sent Venera 5 and 6 only to be destroyed in the air, because their design was similar to Venera 4's. They also had parachutes, and they had only 50 minutes in Venus's atmosphere to send data. Both probes were launched in 1969, and this time the result was the same. Before any meaningful information could be obtained, they were crushed and destroyed in the air within an hour. But the Russians did not lose heart. This time, they made Venera 7 extremely strong. This probe was indeed as strong as a tank. It was so heavy and rigid that its only goal was set: to survive on Venus. In the pursuit of strength, not many scientific instruments were installed in it, but perhaps Venera 7's luck was bad. During landing, due to a technical issue, its switchboard got stuck in such a position that it could now only send temperature data. But the Russian scientists were so clever that they estimated from just that temperature data that the atmospheric pressure on the surface there was 90 times that of Earth's. That is, pressure equivalent to being 1 kilometer deep in the ocean. And at that time, when Venera 7 was about to land, another problem arose. Its parachute tore, and it fell onto Venus's surface at a speed of 17 meters per second. The good news was that Venera 7 survived, and the bad news was that it ended up upside down, with its antenna facing downward. But the Russian scientists did not lose heart, and despite the antenna being down, managed to catch the weak signal. In a fallen and broken state, Venera 7 maintained contact with Earth from Venus's surface for the next 23 minutes. Thus, it became the first man-made object in history to land on another planet and send signals from there.
But the temperature it detected on Venus's surface sent shivers down the world's spine. 465 degrees Celsius was recorded on Venus's surface, which is twice the temperature of an oven. Another astonishing thing happened. When it was falling on Venus, it was continuously sending radio signals to Earth.
At that time, Russian scientists noted that as it was falling, there was something pushing Venera 7 from the side, because this movement was causing a slight change in the radio frequency. This frequency shift is called the Doppler effect. By calculating it, they estimated that there were hurricane-like winds of 360 kilometers per hour in Venus's atmosphere, which were pushing the probe to one side. This speed is far greater than even the biggest storms on our Earth. Venera 8's mission was more advanced than all previous missions because the Russians now knew what kind of terrifying enemy they were facing. 90 times more pressure, 360 km/h storms, and heat greater than a tandoor. Venera 8 had a gamma spectrometer installed to test the soil there and a light sensor. This time, it was deliberately landed during the day, not at night like Venera 7, to find out how much light there is on Venus during the day. The light sensor confirmed that despite the thick clouds, there is enough light on Venus's surface for things to be visible. With the help of the light sensor, it was discovered that sunlight spreads everywhere there, as it does here on Earth during cloudy weather. Venera 8 breathed on Venus's surface for 60 minutes. In that period, any machine lasting an hour under 465 degrees heat and such pressure was nothing short of a miracle. The period from Venera 9 to 12 was the era of Russia's greatest success and greatest misfortune. The design of all 4 probes was quite different. Weighing over 5 tons, the lander looked like a strange UFO. There was a round box in the middle where all the delicate electronics were kept so that heat and pressure wouldn't immediately destroy them. At the very bottom was a crush ring that would collapse upon landing and act as a shock absorber, and above the umbrella-like part was an air brake that would reduce its speed before landing. These probes also had something everyone was waiting for. Yes, a camera. 2 cameras were installed in each probe to get a 360-degree view of Venus, but at the last moment a problem occurred. After landing, the lens caps didn't open. In Venera 9 and 10, only one camera's cap opened. Venera 11 and 12 survived for 110 minutes, but unfortunately, both lens caps on both probes did not open. They sent a lot of data, but not a single picture. On October 2, 1975, Venera 9, with the help of one lens, sent the first picture of Venus. It was a historic moment that a machine built by humans sent a picture from another planet. The world saw that Venus is not a sandy desert, but a rocky and terrifying land where sharp stones are scattered. Now came the turn of Venera 13 and 14. This was a glorious ending for the golden era of the Soviet Union, that is, Russia. These missions showed the world what humans had never seen before. But such a strange mistake also occurred here, which remains an example in space history to this day. These probes didn't just have cameras, but also a microphone. After landing, when Venera 13's microphone was opened on Venus's surface, a sound like this was heard. For the first time in history, Venera 13 recorded the sound of winds and thunder on another planet. It also had a drill and a seismometer. The soil samples there were enough to determine that earthquakes also occur on Venus. Venera 13 also sent the first colored picture of Venus. From these pictures, we can now know that Venus's sky is orange and the ground is brownish. But what happened with Venera 14 will astonish you. It had a spring-loaded arm that upon landing would hit the ground hard to determine how hard Venus's soil is. But as soon as the camera's lens cap fell, it unfortunately fell exactly where that tester arm was supposed to hit. The result was that the instrument, instead of checking the hardness of the ground, measured the hardness of its own camera's cap. Thus, millions of dollars of effort were wasted because of a small cap. Moving forward with Venera 15 and 16, Russia changed the strategy of the probes. Where previously the probe's target was to land on the surface there, Venera 15 and 16 orbited Venus for 8 months. They had SAR installed because Venus's clouds are so dense that no camera can photograph this planet. With the help of SAR, a map of Venus's surface was created for a full 8 months. These final missions tore the veil of Venus's dense clouds and told us that on this hell-like planet there are mountains 88 kilometers high and cracks thousands of kilometers long. Because of these Soviet missions, we can now see a complete map of Venus. Although America declared Russia's Venera missions a failed experiment, it is because of them that we know how hot Venus is, that there is 90 times more pressure than Earth, that its sky has carbon dioxide gas and clouds of acid like sulfuric acid, that stormy, hellish hot winds blow constantly, and that its ground is rocky and filled with sharp stones. During the space race, the Soviet Union conducted so many missions to Venus, some secret and some public, that many people still recognize it by the name Soviet planet. Even many valleys and craters there have been given Russian names. Venus's clouds are made of sulfuric acid, so why can't acid rain reach the ground there? Give me the answer in the comments section. I hope you will like and share this video from Basic Money Explained as well. See you in the next amazing video.